The doors of Providence Municipal Court opened at 10:30 a.m. and 38-year-old Simone Hartwell made a striking entrance. Her Valentino suit, valued at $4,200, was flawlessly tailored, and her Jimmy Choo heels echoed sharply against the marble floor. Her hair was styled in an elegant updo accented with gold accessories, and she carried a Hermes Kelly bag worth no less than $15,000. Behind her followed an attorney in a costly suit, holding a thick briefcase and an iPad. Simone didn't wait to be announced. She walked directly to the defense table, checking her $12,000 Rolex Datejust and clearly displaying her impatience. Before we get into what unfolded inside that courtroom, if you believe in justice and want to support a new channel dedicated to sharing these powerful stories, please hit the subscribe button and like this video. Every subscription helps us bring more of Judge Caprio's wisdom to light. The bailiff called the case. The People vs. Simone Elizabeth Hartwell. Case number 2024 TRF-WSTN 234. Charges included illegal parking in a handicapped zone, verbal harassment of a police officer, and obstruction. Total fines, $850. Simone's attorney, a well-polished man named Gregory Morrison of Morrison & Associates, stepped forward immediately. Your Honor, before we proceed, I need to raise a procedural issue regarding evidence in this matter. We are requesting that certain video evidence be excluded due to privacy concerns. Judge Frank Caprio looked up, his 37 years on the bench instantly sensing something unusual. Mr. Morrison, what video evidence are you referring to? Officer Thompson's body camera footage. Your Honor, my client has serious privacy concerns about its use in open court. Mrs. Hartwell, please approach the bench. Simone walked forward with exaggerated confidence, placing her expensive handbag on the defense table like a declaration. Your Honor, I honestly don't understand why we're even here. This has been completely blown out of proportion. I parked in that spot for 10 minutes. 10 minutes while I ran into a boutique. The parking enforcement officer was entirely out of line. Mrs. Hartwell, the report indicates you parked in a handicapped space without a permit. It was the only spot available. All the regular spaces were taken. I was just running in briefly to pick up a custom order, a Chanel handbag that cost $8,000. I couldn't exactly leave something like that sitting in the store, could I? I made a practical choice. Judge Caprio leaned forward. A handicapped parking space is designated for individuals with disabilities who require close access to buildings. It is not meant for convenience. Simone waved her hand dismissively. I understand that, but there was no one else using it. No handicapped person was being inconvenienced. I checked. So really, what's the harm? The space was just sitting there empty. The law doesn't require the space to be occupied for it to be illegal to park there without a permit. Well, maybe the law should be more realistic. But that's not even the real issue here, Your Honor. The real issue is how I was treated by that parking officer. She was extremely rude and disrespectful. She actually had the nerve to lecture me about the law, as if I don't know my rights. What happened when the parking officer approached you? Simone's voice took on an offended tone. She came up while I was walking back to my car and started writing a ticket immediately. No warning, no opportunity to explain. I told her I was only gone for a minute and that I was picking up something valuable, and she completely brushed me off. So yes, I might have raised my voice slightly, but she provoked it with her attitude. What happened next would shock everyone in the courtroom. Judge Caprio picked up a tablet. Mrs. Hartwell, your attorney is asking that body camera footage be excluded, but I need to understand what that footage contains before making any decision. Officer Thompson was wearing a camera during this encounter. Let's watch it. Simone's attorney jumped to his feet. Your Honor, I must object. This footage was recorded without my client's consent or prior knowledge. Officer Thompson was wearing a clearly visible body camera, as required by departmental policy. There is no reasonable expectation of privacy in a public parking lot. Objection overruled. Play the video. The courtroom monitor lit up. The timestamp read October 25, 11:15 a.m. The footage showed a $110,000 Tesla Model X parked squarely in a clearly marked handicap space, complete with blue lines and a prominent sign. Parking enforcement officer Lisa Thompson approached the vehicle and began issuing a citation. Moments later, Simone exited a nearby boutique carrying shopping bags. Her voice was clear on the recording. Excuse me, what do you think you're doing, ma'am? I'm issuing a citation for parking in a handicap zone without proper authorization. I was only inside for 10 minutes. This is absurd. Ma'am, the duration doesn't matter. This space is reserved for individuals with disabilities. Simone's voice rose sharply. Do you even know who I am? I'm Simone Hartwell. My family owns 3 businesses in this city. We pay more in taxes than you probably earn in a year. Officer Thompson remained composed. Ma'am, that doesn't change the violation. You know what? I want your name and badge number. This is harassment. I'm calling my attorney and having you written up for this. Actually, better yet, I'll call your supervisor right now and have you reassigned somewhere you can't bother real taxpayers. Ma'am, I'm just doing my job. Your job is to serve people like me who actually contribute to the city, not waste time on petty nonsense. How dare you embarrass me in public like this? But what came next was even worse. On camera, Simone pulled out her phone. I'm recording this. I want everyone to see how I'm being treated. This officer, she pointed directly at the badge, Officer Ella Thompson, badge 2847, is harassing a citizen over a parking space that wasn't even being used. Officer Thompson's voice remained calm. Ma'am, you're welcome to file a complaint through the proper channels, but right now I need to complete this citation. Simone stepped closer, her voice dripping with venom. You think you have power because you carry that little badge and that ticket book? Let me tell you something. People like me decide whether people like you keep their jobs. One complaint from me, one call to the right people, and you'll be begging for work parking cars instead of writing tickets. Ma'am, you're now interfering with official duties. If you don't step back, I'll have to request backup. Call whoever you want. I want this documented. I want everyone to see how parking enforcement in this city treats successful black women. You're probably just jealous that I can afford to shop in places you've never even heard of. At that moment, Officer Thompson activated her radio. Dispatch, I need a unit at the corner of Westminster and Webosset. I have an uncooperative individual. Simone's voice rose to a shrill pitch. Uncooperative? You're calling backup because I'm standing up for myself? This is exactly what I'm talking about. This is a power trip. You're on a power trip because you can't handle a strong, successful woman calling you out. A police officer arrived moments later, Officer James Mitchell. His body camera captured his approach. Ma'am, I need you to calm down and step away from Officer Thompson. I will not calm down. This is discrimination. I'm being targeted because, ma'am, you are being cited for a parking violation. Please provide your license and registration. I want my attorney. I'm not providing anything until my attorney is present. And I'm recording all of this. This entire department is going to hear about how you people operate. The video ended. The courtroom was completely silent. If Judge Caprio's compassion moves you the way it moves millions of others, please support our channel by subscribing. We're just getting started, and your subscription means everything. Simone stood at the defense table, her face flushed with a mix of embarrassment and anger. Her attorney was rapidly typing on his iPad. Judge Caprio set the tablet down and looked at Simone for a long moment. Mrs. Hartwell, that footage shows you threatening Officer Thompson's job, claiming you could have her reassigned, and refusing to comply with a lawful citation. Is that correct? I was upset. She was being completely unreasonable. I told her it was only going to take a few minutes, and she refused to listen. You told Officer Thompson that people like you decide whether people like her keep their jobs. What did you mean by that? Simone lifted her chin. I meant that taxpayers like me have the right to expect professional conduct. If parking enforcement officers are going to harass citizens over minor issues, we have the right to file complaints. You also told her she'd be begging for a job parking cars instead of issuing tickets. That was just frustration. It wasn't a real threat. It sounded very real on that video. Mrs. Hartwell, you also accused Officer Thompson of targeting you because you're a successful black woman. Do you have any evidence that race or success played any role in this citation? Simone hesitated. It felt like discrimination. The way she approached me, the way she wouldn't listen to reason. Officer Thompson approached your vehicle because it was illegally parked in a handicapped space. She issued the citation because that is her job. Nothing in that footage suggests discrimination. What it does suggest is that you believed your wealth and status entitled you to special treatment. That's not what you specifically told Officer Thompson, that she should serve people like you who actually contribute to the city. You told her she was wasting time on petty nonsense. You threatened her livelihood. Those are not the words of someone who believes they were discriminated against. Those are the words of someone who believes they are above the law. Simone's attorney stood. Your Honor, my client's behavior was inappropriate, but it does not change the fact that this began as a minor parking violation, and the response escalated unnecessarily. Mr. Morrison, your client did far more than commit a parking violation. She obstructed an officer, made threats, caused a public disturbance, and then attempted to suppress video evidence that clearly shows what occurred. Why did you request that this footage be excluded? Morrison shifted uncomfortably. Your Honor, my client has a public profile. She was concerned about how this video might be used. Mr. Morrison, are you a member of the Rhode Island Bar Association? Yes, Your Honor. Then you understand that attempting to suppress relevant evidence without a legitimate legal basis is a serious ethical concern. Mrs. Hartwell, did you instruct your attorney to try to exclude this video? Simone glanced at her lawyer, then back at the judge. I asked him to explore every option to protect my reputation, including hiding evidence that shows your actual conduct. I didn't want that video played because I knew how it would look out of context. Mrs. Hartwell, there is no context that makes your behavior acceptable. You parked illegally. You threatened an officer. You claimed discrimination without evidence, and then you attempted to conceal the proof. Judge Caprio rose from the bench. The standard fine for parking in a handicapped space is $250. The fine for obstruction is $600. But given your threats toward Officer Thompson, your attempt to intimidate a public servant with wealth and influence, and your effort to suppress evidence, I am imposing the maximum penalties, Your Honor. The total fine is $2,500. In addition, you will complete 60 hours of community service. Those hours will be served with the Rhode Island Disability Law Center, where you will learn firsthand why handicapped parking spaces exist and who depends on them. Simone's mouth fell open. $2,500 for a parking ticket, for a parking violation, obstruction, threatening an officer, and attempting to interfere with justice by suppressing evidence. Yes, $2,500. This is insane, Gregory. Tell him this is insane. Her attorney looked defeated. Your Honor, we will be filing an appeal. You are free to file whatever you choose. My ruling stands. Stands. And Mr. Morrison, I will be forwarding a report to the Rhode Island Bar Association Disciplinary Board regarding your attempt to exclude relevant evidence without lawful justification. They will decide whether your conduct warrants further investigation. Morrison's face turned pale. Your Honor, I was acting under my client's instructions. You are an officer of the court, Mr. Morrison. Your primary duty is to the justice system, not to a client's wish to conceal embarrassing evidence. The Bar Association will make its own determination, Simone erupted. You can't report my attorney. He was doing his job. This is a witch hunt. You're targeting me because you violated the law, threatened a public servant, and attempted to cover it up. That is why you are here, Mrs. Hartwell. Not because of who you are, but because of what you did. My family will hear about this. We have connections. My uncle is a state senator. Then I'm sure your uncle will be very interested in learning how you conducted yourself. Court is adjourned. The gavel struck with finality. As Simone grabbed her expensive handbag and stormed toward the exit, Officer Thompson stood near the doorway. Simone tried to walk past her, but the officer spoke softly. Mrs. Hartwell, I hope you'll come to understand that handicapped spaces exist for people who genuinely need them. I was simply doing my job. Simone paused, turned slightly, and for a moment looked as though she might respond. Then she pushed through the doors without saying a word, but something unexpected happened in the months that followed. On her first day at the Rhode Island Disability Law Center, Simone arrived dressed in designer clothing, clearly expecting to sit behind a desk answering phones. She was greeted by Director Patricia Chen, who used a wheelchair. Mrs. Hartwell, welcome. Today you'll be accompanying me as we meet with clients to discuss the accessibility barriers they face throughout Providence. I assumed I'd be doing office work. You assumed incorrectly. You're going to meet the people who actually rely on the handicapped parking spaces you once found inconvenient. That day changed everything. Simone met Marcus, a veteran who had lost both legs in Afghanistan and struggled daily to find parking close enough to enter buildings independently. She met Sarah, a woman with multiple sclerosis who missed a medical appointment because someone without a permit had taken the only accessible space. She met an 8-year-old boy with cerebral palsy whose mother had to carry him 3 blocks because nearby accessible parking was routinely occupied by people just running in for a minute. By the 3rd week, Simone stopped wearing expensive clothing to her service hours. She began listening more than speaking. She learned about the daily indignities faced by people with disabilities, not only parking issues, but inaccessible buildings, harmful assumptions, and the exhausting effort required to fight for basic accommodations. One afternoon, while helping Patricia review accessibility complaints, Simone recognized an address, the boutique she had visited that day. A wheelchair user had filed a complaint about the lack of accessible parking. The designated spaces were frequently taken by vehicles without permits. I was part of the problem, Simone said quietly. Patricia looked at her. Yes, you were. But you're here now, learning. That's what matters. When Simone completed her 60 hours, she didn't walk away. She continued volunteering. This time, she used her business connections responsibly, helping pressure property owners to improve accessibility. She became an advocate instead of an obstacle. 3 months after her court appearance, Simone requested a meeting with Officer Thompson. They met at a cafe near the courthouse. Officer Thompson, I wanted to apologize to you in person. What I said that day was cruel, elitist, and wrong. You were doing your job, and I tried to use my privilege to intimidate you. I'm truly sorry. Officer Thompson studied her carefully. Mrs. Hartwell, I've been yelled at many times over parking citations. Very few people ever apologize. The fact that you're here matters. I've learned so much these past months about disability rights, about why those spaces matter, and about my own entitlement. I was wrong. Completely. 6 months later, Simone sold her luxury Tesla and bought a modest used car. She became a regular donor to the Disability Law Center. And whenever she saw someone illegally parked in a handicapped space, she left a respectful note explaining why those spaces exist, often sharing her own story of attorney Gregory Morrison faced a Bar Association investigation. He received a formal reprimand for attempting to suppress relevant evidence without legal cause. He learned firsthand that following unethical plan instructions does not excuse professional misconduct. If this story moved you, if you believe judges like Frank Caprio reflect the best of our justice system, please support our channel by subscribing and liking this video. Share it with someone who needs to hear that justice and compassion can exist together. Comment below with your city. Let's build a community grounded in fairness for everyone. 2 years later, Simone Hartwell was known less for designer handbags and more for her work as a disability rights advocate. She launched a campaign to strengthen enforcement of handicapped parking laws. Using her own experience as a warning, she spoke at community events about privilege, accountability, and learning to look beyond personal convenience. Judge Caprio kept a photograph on his desk, Simone working alongside Patricia Chen as they reviewed accessibility plans for a new community center. It served as a reminder that those who fight consequences the hardest are often resisting their own growth, and that when they stop resisting and begin learning, real transformation can occur. The message echoed throughout Providence: handicapped parking spaces are not suggestions. Threats do not erase accountability. And the courtroom remains the great equalizer, where designer labels carry no weight and character matters most. Simone entered that courtroom believing her wealth made the rules optional. She left understanding that true privilege is not parking wherever you want, it is having the ability to walk from any parking space at all. Something millions of people would give anything to do. That isn't just justice. That is transformation.